So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, when Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes came to Detroit as the head coach and general manager respectively, they were met with a lot of challenges, the most important of which was to replace and rebrand the culture surrounding the Detroit Lions. Take it from what it was under Matt Patricia to what they envision it being 2 or 3 years down the line when Detroit is a playoff contender and hopefully, in their minds, a Super Bowl contender. And although it's only been a short year since Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have taken over this Detroit Lions franchise and began to rebrand the culture and began to rebrand the franchise in general, we are already beginning to see the culture shift in Detroit. And today, I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the culture that is changing, what the culture is becoming, and some of the benefits that the Detroit Lions are already seeing as a result of the Dan Campbell culture and the new Lions way. So with that being said, and without any further ado, let's get into breaking down the culture that Dan Campbell is building and taking a look at some of the early benefits that the Lions are already seeing because of this culture change. Now, Matt Patricia did not have a very good culture in place. Matt Patricia's culture was the Patriot way, right? It was his way or the highway, and a lot of players did not respond very well to that, and I think you could see it on the field, you could see it in effort, and you could just see it in the play of the Detroit Lions starting players in 2020 and before. They didn't necessarily give the highest effort. They didn't necessarily seem like they cared. They didn't necessarily seem like they wanted to win for their head coach. And every time they won a game, all the guys congratulating Matt Patricia were Trey Flowers, were Danny Amendola, were Duron Harmon. These Patriot players that came in because of Matt Patricia were really the only ones that seemed to respond to Matt Patricia's way, and the only ones that seemed to respond to the winning that happened in Detroit when Matt Patricia was the head coach. Not that every other player gave up, and not that these players didn't try hard, but it just seemed like these players weren't responding to what Matt Patricia was trying to put on them, right? It just seemed like those players didn't want to play for Matt Patricia. They were playing for the city of Detroit. They were playing for their teammates. They were playing for their jobs, for their careers, but they were not playing for Matt Patricia. And I think the best example of that was the 2020 Houston Texans game on Thanksgiving Day, where the Detroit Lions actually started out relatively good. They were in a close, hard-fought battle with the Houston Texans, who at the time had a worse record than the Detroit Lions, and they lost. They got blown out by the end of the game, and they just could not compete, right? And I think the big story of Matt Patricia's career in Detroit was, sure, they started out okay, right? Every single year they started 500 or better after week 6, but every single year they finished multiple games behind 500 because these players did not have the longevity or the will to play an entire season under Matt Patricia to give 100% effort, right? Sheila Ford Hamp mentioned in the press conference after they fired Matt Patricia that, after week 6, after week 7, they were in borderline playoff contention, but after week 9 or 10, after the Thanksgiving game, they were firmly out of the playoff race, and a lot of that had to do with Matt Patricia's culture, right? These players didn't want to play for him, and they couldn't attract free agents. They couldn't attract draft players. They could not attract undrafted free agents, and it was really hard to build a team without overpaying significantly for average talent if you were the Detroit Lions under Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. So that was the major thing that the Detroit Lions wanted to focus on when it came to Dan Campbell, is when Dan Campbell comes in, when this next head coach and general manager come in to build and rebrand this culture, that's what we want. We want somebody to inspire the players. We want somebody who will make these players fight every single week for their team, for their coaching staff, and for the city. And we want a culture where free agents want to come here, where draft players want to come here, where undrafted free agents want to come play in Detroit, and when our players want to return on extensions and on re-signings. And that is the culture that we are beginning to see the Detroit Lions build under the Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes regime, right? Early benefits of this have seen the Detroit Lions re-sign a lot of their guys that they want in the building. Guys like Charles Harris, a free agent from a season ago, probably didn't have the biggest market in 2020 in the 2021 offseason. So he signed a small prove-it deal with the Detroit Lions. He absolutely proved himself, and the Detroit Lions ended up giving him a $14 million contract over 2 seasons to remain with the Detroit Lions. And after he re-signed, in his press conference, he talked about how there were multiple teams offering him more money or more years or technically a better offer to go to a better football team and win more football games. And yet Charles Harris decided that where he wanted to be was Detroit, because he believed in the coaches, he believed in the system, he believed in the culture, and he believed in this football team to improve and get better, and he wants to be here for that process. Tracy Walker said the exact same thing in his press conference, saying that he had multiple year deals, had multiple other teams offering him positions, and teams that were borderline playoff teams that were better than the Detroit Lions were a season ago, right? The Lions finished 3-13-1. They finished the second worst record in the entirety of the NFL. And I don't think Jacksonville was offering him any opportunities to play safety in that system. So Tracy Walker had multiple offers to go to better situations and better football teams for likely more money, and yet he wanted to come back to Detroit. He wanted to change the culture. He wanted to change the mindset around the Detroit Lions from being that last place team in the NFC North to being that NFC contender, to being that NFC powerhouse. He believes in the system. He believes in Dan Campbell. He's working with these coaches. He loves Aaron Glenn, loves Aubrey Pleasant, really enjoys playing in this secondary, and this secondary in this team is an incredibly close unit, and they all root for each other to succeed. And Tracy Walker wants to be here for this process. He wants to be here for the Lions to build up a dynasty, right? He wants to be here while the Detroit Lions build up a really good football team around him, and Tracy Walker saw the opportunity. He's seeing the culture change. He's seeing the coaching staff changes. He is seeing the improvement every single week under Dan Campbell, and because of that, he decided to re-sign with the Detroit Lions instead of going to an arguably better situation in a hypothetically better contract for him personally, right? I wouldn't be surprised if he was offered more money on the open market, similar to what Quandre Diggs got, similar to what Justin Reed got, similar to what Marcus Williams got, probably a little less than Marcus Williams, but the point still stands that he probably got a better offer by a better football team, and yet he still decided to come back to the Detroit Lions. And then when you look at the current free agents that just signed with the Detroit Lions, DJ Chark made it very evident that even though the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars had nearly identical records from a season ago, right? Jacksonville sitting at that number 1 pick, Detroit sitting at that number 2 pick, there was a huge difference in culture, coaching, and just identity within these two teams. Whereas Jacksonville, according to DJ Chark, would give up, they would be lackadaisical, they wouldn't really fight to win these football games under Urban Meyer. You watch the Detroit Lions and they're within 3 points of Minnesota. They're within, 3 points of Chicago. They're within 3 points of Baltimore. They're within, 7 points of the Los Angeles Rams. They're within, 3 points of the Pittsburgh Steelers and 3 points of the Cleveland Browns. They are very, very close to winning a lot of these football games. And then, DJ Chark mentioned that down the latter half of the season, instead of giving up and giving into this idea, okay, we're not very good, we're giving up on the season, we're tanking for the number 1 overall pick, DJ Chark mentioned how the Lions continue to fight, how the culture continued to improve, and how they beat multiple 10-win teams on the season, which really showed their ability to fight through controversy and really showed the culture and the mindset that was really, really important to DJ Chark. He mentioned that he had several multi-year offers on the table for more money, but he wanted to come to Detroit because of the culture he saw on the field and because of the coaching he saw when watching and scouting the Detroit Lions as a possible free agency destination. Another guy, Mike Hughes, hasn't had his press conference yet, but I would be shocked if the Lions were the only team offering Mike Hughes a contract, and Mike Hughes grading as a top 10 PFF corner a season ago, starting on the Kansas City Chiefs secondary. I would be shocked if Kansas City didn't offer him a contract. I would be shocked if Kansas City didn't offer him a better contract than 1 year to $3.5 million on a really low prove-it deal to come be the sixth cornerback on a roster. If he didn't get a better offer than that by any NFL team better than the Detroit Lions, I would be absolutely shocked at that fact, because he played really good football a season ago, and there's a lot of teams out there that are struggling in the secondary far more than the Detroit Lions, and there are a lot of different situations where Mike Hughes could have gone, probably been a starting cornerback for more money, for more guaranteed money, for more incentives. He probably could have got upwards of $7 to $8 million to be a starting cornerback on a team over multiple seasons based off of his play a season ago, and yet he wanted to come to Detroit, not to be a starter, but to be a backup, to be a role player in this defense when he was a starter a season ago. Players don't take that downgrade in their career, right? They don't go from starters to backup unless they believe in the culture that you're building. They don't go from starting on an AFC Championship roster to being the sixth string cornerback on the second worst team in the NFL record-wise from a season ago unless they believe in what you are building, and that's exactly what is going on in Detroit. Now, the culture is not 100% set, right? The Lions are not at the point yet where free agents necessarily want to come here over other destinations, right? That's why they couldn't sign Marcus Williams. That's why they couldn't sign Allen Robinson. Part of it was they were just too expensive, and at this point, Detroit is not willing nor capable to give out the cap space and the money that those free agents were looking for. But another thing is they just aren't quite at that situation yet where they are attractive enough to big name free agents to where they can underpay for that top tier talent, right? They're still at the point where if they wanted Allen Robinson, they would have had to pay him $15, $16 million this season. They would have had to pay Marcus Williams $16, $17 million this season, probably more than what the Baltimore Ravens offered him over a 5-year contract. At this point, the Lions just aren't capable of giving out those contracts yet, which is why they're not attracting big name free agents like Myles Jack, Marcus Williams, or Allen Robinson. But at the end of the day, the culture is changing, and although it's a very slow start, it is a very clear start that the Detroit Lions are on, and the path that they're going on is absolutely the right one, right? If they can attract a Pro Bowl wide receiver and a starting really good caliber cornerback in just their first year after going 3-13-1, what are they going to do next year when they win 6 to 7 games? What if they overachieve next year and win 8 to 9 games, vying for that wild card spot, showing that this culture is building, that this culture is improving, and that this football team is improving exponentially? You could start to see big name free agents not only tolerate coming to Detroit, but want to come here for this rebuild, but want to come here to help further this rebuild along and make it go even faster than it was before. And I think if the Lions win anywhere between 7 to 9 wins next year, you're going to see this culture and you're going to see this identity around Detroit of being, this is a good culture, this is what we're building, this is a players first kind of a system, and this is where guys want to be. I think you're going to see that idea take off drastically in the 2023 offseason. But with all that being said, that is life for you guys today. Again, I just wanted to touch on the culture that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are building, talk about some of the benefits that we are already seeing in this free agency class, and talk about some of the benefits that we are already seeing from this culture change from Patricia to Campbell, and really just kind of, show you that although it is a slow process and although it is a slow start to the process has absolutely begun, and the culture is beginning to get right in Detroit as Dan Campbell begins to develop the Lion way. So with all that being said, that is life for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below about the culture. Do you like the direction the Lions are moving? Are you happy with where the culture is at right now after 1 year under Dan Campbell? Or do you want to see more out of this coaching staff and front office? I'd be very curious to hear what you guys think. But with all that being said, that is life for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions!